we are trying to get the alternator off. So I blew the alternator in this back in Germany, or when I woke up outside of ADAC. The alternator was making like a high-pitched whistling noise. The bearing is actually gone. I've got a stethoscope somewhere I put down.
There.
I have got the stethoscope, but it's definitely bad on the bearing. So the bearing is done. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to do a bit of an uplift and a bit of an upgrade. So these come in, these L322s up to 2010 when they did the facelift. They have a 150 amp alternator, which seemed to be sufficient certainly for these. Then in 2010, they uplifted them for the diesels, and for the L405, used the same one. They uplifted to a 220 amp. So it's otherwise a very, very similar. The actual bracketry is all the same. Pulley is different, and obviously on this thing, we've got like a 3-pin connector. On the L405 version of the alternator, it's a single Canbus connector. So I wanted to kind of see what I could do to kind of lever in one of those L405 alternators. So I spoke to a chap called Sam at the Starter Bay. I'll put a link in the description to his website. And spoke to him how best to do this. And he has managed to get a brand new L405 alternator and update the regulator, I think it's on the back of it, to a 3-pin. So it's ready to go. So all I've got to do, I'll take mine off. I've got to drive up to Gloucester. We're going to check the pulleys because I need the pulley off this one really to go onto that new one. And then it should be good to go. And then I'll have 220 amps. That will help with the fact that I've got the Bluetti Charger One in here, which is obviously pulling quite a lot, about 560 watts. I've also got quite a few bits and pieces plugged in as well. So it's got quite a lot of electrical draw on the engine, and I think that's what didn't, I think probably overheated. So for the time being, I'm going to try and get the alternator off. To get the alternator off, you need to do a few things. Rave gives you some good information as to how to do this. I've seen a few videos. Grille needs to come off. So for me, that's my spotlights off as well. So grille off, headlight off. Then the expansion tank needs to take off this hose, and then you need to undo the brackets. I'm not sure you can see. If you come around this side, Gene. Oops, sorry about that. Right. You go there, see there? Those 2 bolts.
Yep.
They need to be undone, and then this needs to be lifted off. And if you pinch the hose, then you can stop all the fluid coming out. You move that out the way. Then the engine cover needs to come off. And then down here, what I'm shining on down there, it's a flashy LED light, I'm afraid. And if I put it on a brighter one, will that work?
That works.
Look at that. So that there, what I'm shining on now is the alternator. There we go. So that is the alternator. That is going to be held on with just 3 bolts, and I'll show you those when I get to a point where I can get to it. So let's get these first bits off first. So the headlight out, the expansion tank out the way, and the engine cover off. So we've got to get the engine cover off. So to do that, I've taken out the cabin filter and the housing for the cabin filter, which wasn't too difficult. It's just a nut there and a nut there, 13mm. But these little things, typically, the engine cover has got 4 studs sticking up. So 4 little 10mm nuts. And one of them is completely chuffing seized. So as you can see, these have all come off all okay. But the one there is just turning and turning and turning. So, and unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be undoing the stud either. So I'm hoping I can lever it off, taking the grommet with it. But I'm certain this engine cover must have been off recently, so God only knows what somebody else did with it. Unless it's just not. Oh, managed to undo the stud. Hang on there. Oh. This will be quite flexible here. No, not. Here we go. So, stud there. Yeah, there's the stud. I have managed to undo the stud. So now I need to get to that. I can get to down there. That's okay. I've got. No, I haven't got my sockets for that, so I'll have to do it when I come back next time.
Yeah.
But I have to take the tension off that. I'll need to do that first, so I'm going to do that after. I'm not going to do that today.
We're trying to do as much as we can before getting picked up, because Van Diesel is being annoying, isn't he?
Van Diesel is a mobiliser, is being naughty.
Being naughty.
So, yeah. Let's put that back in. So no crud falls into the engine. But yeah, so we're going to have to just wait now. Okay, so we've got the expansion tank off. So it's just those 2 bolts that I showed you earlier. That were basically, they were there. And then it just pulls off. It's like a slidey tab thing here, literally just here. And just pulls off and leaves to one side. Because it does tend to leak out a little bit, because the pressure creeps up, I've done my best. And you just cut a finger of a glove off, zip tight to the top, and stops it from gushing out the top there. Might just tighten that up a second. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a bit of a trickle, but nothing particularly bad. That's okay. So now what I get to. So the next thing to get off, I'm going to try and keep you there. There we go. So the next thing I'm going to do, I've got to get this off, this support beam, bar, bracket, whatever you want to call it. So it is held on, I think, by 3 bolts. There's one, which you can't see behind here. Let me see if I can, there you go. And then there's one as well, just down, can you see my finger? Yes, of course you can't. Literally behind that little bar. Down there. There we go. You can see it there. If I try and bung this so it's actually on the car again. 1 second. Like that. The other one is down there. So they look like the same bolts, which I think were 8mm. Pretty sure they're 8mm, they look like 8mm. And then this bar comes off. Now, I'm pretty sure I remember seeing it said there was 3 bolts, but I haven't looked recently, so I'm not going to particularly fuss about it. I'm going to get off what I can. They haven't been off for a while, so I'm going to WD-40 those, get them soaking. Once that's off, then I should be able to get a bit closer access to the alternator. I will need to relax off the tensioner, the belt tensioner, which is on the other side, which you can just sort of hold off, pull the belt off, and then get the alternator out. But it is a bit of a fiddly job to do whilst filming, so I'll do my best. Okay, so it ended up being easy to take the expansion tank out. Despite what people say, it is not an easy thing to do with the expansion tank in, mainly because there is a 3rd bolt, and there was one, just tucked down in there, just about to see it in there, look. So I've got to get into that, which I don't actually know how I'm going to do that, but we'll work that one out in a moment. And I think you'll find people who have done this before tend to leave that bolt off. So we'll see what we need to do. But there's another one the other side down there. And then that one I just showed you. So I'm going to get those 3 off as best I can. Not the easiest thing to do, but definitely easy without the expansion tank in the way. So I've got that out. It's just draining off. I'll give that a clean up and it's fine to put back on. Clamped the hose, we should be good. So I'm going to carry on and try and get this bracket off. It's going to be a bit of a bugger, I think. We'll give it a go. That was a pig, quite frankly. So you can't really get to those bolts very easily, those 3. That one at the back's not too bad, actually, to be fair. No, it was done up quite loosely. But that one, oops, sorry, where am I looking? I'll get down here, look. So that one down there, that was a pig. You have to use a ring spanner to get the angle on it. There's no way you're getting a socket to it, and you have to do it literally like an 1/8 of a turn, bit by bit. This one wasn't as bad here, but same thing, ring spanner in. I did think about moving this bracket out of the way, and I undid a bolt here, but this is actually joined up way further down as well, and it's solid as a rock, so that's not moving. But I have now got that bracket off, so in theory, I should be able to get that bracket out. Not with any luck. Could do with a bit of light down here. I feel like there's the cable's still attached to it. Yep. That was attached. There we go. So the cable's off, and the bracket now comes out. God, what a pain in the derriere that was. So, now I've got tons of access to the alternator, which you can still barely see. There's the alternator. So in the supercharged, you get all these extra hoses. Aren't we lucky? So there's a bit more to go on. What I've got to do is get to, oh, I'm going to get down here as well. There's one bolt, you can see at the top of the alternator. I believe, I have no idea where the other ones are. I cannot see any others, but I know there is one there somewhere. But that one there, where the hell's the other one? Crikey. So I'll get that one off. I need to take the tension off first, take the belt off. Oh, what a pain that is, isn't it? I don't know, I want to get a socket into there. But yeah, so now I've got to get the alternator off. Somehow, that alternator has got to come off. I need to take the battery out first. That would probably be a good idea, wouldn't it? Let's do that. Welcome back. It is another day. So, to get to the alternator, I've been doing a bit of research. You do pull it out from the top here, which looks really easy. But what you can do is get to the bolts underneath. So to get to the bolts underneath, obviously you have to do something else. You have to take your bottom trays off, which is often held in by pipe cleaners, clothes pegs, colourful language, and maybe even some original fixings. But I had a few, and it looks like actually, I think Boardlane did actually put in a few new clips as well. So now I've got access to underneath here. I did think about lifting the car up and then realised that I've cut off all the coolant, so I'd rather not do that. So now I need to get to the alternator. So from here, which I can see really easy a moment ago, here it is. Okay, so if you can see up there, I will, let's have a look, see if I got it on there. Have I? Where are we? I've completely lost track of where I am now. So yes, so there that is, those little bolts there, you can see right in the middle of the screen roughly. They look like 13 mil or something like that. Those two need to come undone. And obviously the top one, which we've looked at before, that needs to come undone. There is the main power lead that comes on, like the main positive that comes from the battery to the alternator. You can take the battery out first before I start touching all that, otherwise I'm going to have a shocking time doing this. But before I do any of that, I need to take the slack off the belt, the alternator belt. So I'll do that. You have to take some stuff off the top as well. So let's get up to the top and I'll show you what I've got to take off the top. Okay, here we are in, I don't need the torch anymore. From the top, if I can stop blinding myself, we need to get into there. Oh, that'd be useful to have a torch, wouldn't it? You need to get into there to get the belt, to take the tension off the tensioner, which isn't, by the looks of it, isn't too difficult a job. But this is obviously all in the way, all this here. Oops. All of this here. So I'm gonna because you can either opt to take out the Phillips and take this whole panel off, or you can just take the ducting off from here, which I might do actually, because I can't see that really being in the way, to be fair. So I'm gonna take the ducting off, which is just a matter of taking the clamp off here, taking the clamp off here, pulling this duct off, I believe that's it, and then fudging some kind of way of holding that tensioner in place while I take the belt off. Ideally, I want to keep the tension off that belt the whole time. I don't want it pulling the belt through into any other weird position, so that is what I'm going to try and do. So for the moment, I am going to take this lot off and yeah, do the tensioner. Okay, so it's yet another day at Dadot Hood HQ. Did get a bit more done. Got the airbox off the top here. I have left the main box on just at the pipe work out so I can get to the tensioner. It is impossibly difficult to get something down there with a ratchet or something along those lines. So I have actually bought a tensioner tool from Screwfix, which is a pain in the bum because now I've got to go to Screwfix and go pick it up. However, The upside of having a unit on an industrial estate is that there's screw fix. So I'm going to nip across there, get myself the tool and come back. Okay, day 4 or 5 or 9, oops, I'm not entirely sure, but we're still trying to get the alternator off. Now, it's not because I couldn't do it, it's because I'll keep running out of time and I have to work. So I need to get this tensioner off here, not off, sorry, I just need to get it loosened. With this there, just so for argument's sake, that there's the tensioner, yeah? So that puts the tension on the belts, which go around the front of the engine, Arlo, okay? So as you can see, there is a little slot here, just there. Can you see the little, I don't know if you can see that, a little thing, which is where the handle touches, there's a little square hole.
Move the handle a second. And let's try and, oh wait.
Put it down there.
Can you guys see that?
Little square hole at the top. That is what you'll need to put this end into. Okay, so a little extension on one of these serpentine belt removal tools. But I can't do it at the moment because it needs to be undone first. So as you can see, there is a bolt at the bottom there, which is put in a really useful place right next to the bottom of the hosing.
I'll zoom in on it for you.
So what you can do is you can get a nut right on the end of this serpentine belt tool. So what I'm going to do is find out what size nut there is. It looks like maybe a 13 mil or something like that. It looks a bit bigger than 13 mil. So we'll have a quick check. And then we'll put it straight onto the end of this thing and see if we can get it off. So we've got I don't even know what size it is, tiny. Right. That was an absolute pain in the rear end. There's just no space. I'm sure you're supposed to take a lot of stuff out to be able to do this, but I didn't want to do that. So this is kind of my fault. So what I've had to do, so it's a 15 mil bolt to loosen off the tensioner. And obviously you've got like maybe, I don't know, 10 degrees of turning in there with some space. So I couldn't get a socket in there. It's just not enough space. So I managed to get a 15 mil ring spanner in there. And then on this end, I managed to use a bit of a kind of a jimmy to get this little 14 mil hex into that. And then the hex connector for my socket set onto there. And then what's that, an 8 mil? No, sorry, 12 mil, so 12 mil onto there, and then use my 12 mil on here. So the reason I had to do that is so they get the extra leverage, but also is because this is a 12 point. So this has got, as you can see, there's more points to it. So I've got more degrees of turning it. I can do it a little bit, turn it a little bit more to get more leverage, rather than it being 6, which I have to turn a whole load like that, well, not that one, but like these. So with these wrenches, I managed to, these tools, I'm tired, ring spanners, I managed to get that loosened off. So the tensioner is now undone. So I now need to actually loosen the tension off the belt itself, which is what I came here to do in the first place. So I nipped across the screw fit today, as you probably saw if I put it in the video. And I got hold, no I didn't, that's not it. I got hold of one of these. So this is a serpentine belt removing tool. And then literally with this little single extension, which I can't remember which one this is. This is a silver one. I can't remember, and I'm like, these are not my reading glasses. So with this in, I should be able to now tuck this into that little square block, which I did find a way of doing yesterday. I think it's behind this hose. Into there, like that. And I should be able to take the tension off. Should be able to. Like that. Like that. See that?
Yeah.
That is a shed load of tension. So what people tend to do, they pull it over and then they will zip tie this to something to keep the tension off. Because it's bloody hard to get the tension off itself. Those tensioners are very strong for a reason. So I need to, now I've got that on there, keep that in place for the moment. And I will pull that over and get a strap around here somewhere just to keep it, keep the tension off the belt. Then I can come to this side, take the belt off of the alternator, but that needs to stay there. I really want that to kind of stay together as much as possible. I don't want to be faffing around with that belt because it's an absolute pig. So once that tension is off the alternator, I can take the belt off itself. So I need to get that strapped over here somehow. So I need to go and get my straps, which are somewhere around here in a little black bag. So I'll get back to you in just a second. Okay, we did it. So with the belt tensioner undone slightly, I managed to get the serpentine belt tool on with a little extension, ratchet strapped just to the corner here of the slam panel onto the top, so it's not past 90 degrees, so it won't slip off the top, it shouldn't slip off the top. Ratcheted it in probably about, I don't know, 15 degrees, something along those lines, just enough to take the weight off the belt. And I've managed, if you can see in there, oops, managed to take the belt off of the alternator. So if you look, no, you can't see it, where are you? It's coming in a bit more. There we go. So there's the pulley, and the belt is off. That's the belt here, there's the pulley.
And you can see it.
So that was on there. Okay, so that's now off. So what I've got to do now is get that bolt off at the top of the alternator. Yep, that one. That's the first one I've got to do, loosen off. I've also got to take the cable off the side of it, which is an absolute pain. I think there's 2 cables I need to undo, 1 clip and 1 cable. The clip I can do once I've taken the alternator bolts out. The main power cable I need to do while it's in place. So that's not a particularly simple one to do. So I'm gonna focus on getting that top bolt loosened off first, just to make sure I've got no nasty surprises. And then we'll move on to the other parts. I might just gonna feel how bad that bearing is.
Seriously?
Doesn't actually sound that bad. I wonder if there's a tensioner. Hang on. No, tensioner's good. Yeah. Idler even, sorry. Idler pulley's good. Yeah, weird. But it was definitely, you know, when I put my stethoscope on it, it was definitely the bearing.
Stethoscope?
Yeah, stethoscope onto the alternator. It's like a mechanic stethoscope. You like with a needle, and you touch a bearing with it. Preferably not the spinning bit. Touch a bearing with it, and it tells you whether it's that's making the noise, and it was very much so. Oh. So it is that I need to come out. So I'm gonna crack on with getting the alternator bolts out now. So that wasn't too bad. With a long extension, you can get to it reasonably easy. It's 30. Oh, I was going to say 13. It is a 13 mil. So it is a 13 mil that top bolt. So now I'm going to try and do. If you come around here, how was my pointy thing? I did have a pointy thing. Here's a pointy thing. So where I've got to get to now, down here, that cap here, this plastic cap. Can you see
is it red looking?
Yeah, red looking thing. I need to lever that up and undo the nut that's on top of that plastic cap. That is the main power. This big fat cable is the main power that goes from the alternator, goes to the battery. Okay, so I've now got to lever that up a little bit and get a spanner in that ridiculously tiny place and get this lead off. Okay, that's my next task. As you can see, there's still not a huge amount of room to manoeuvre in here, so I'm going to do my best. The cap looks like it's either split deliberately or might just come off. Heaven forbid it comes off really easily.
Yeah.
It's just getting in here to do it. I thought it'd be a really, look at that, there we go. Okay, that's not too bad. So I haven't been given a shock yet, which is good. So that means I have disconnected it all properly. If I can get my fingers to it, I might be able to off by hand now. Yeah, because it's quite loose. Ow, ow, ow. The conditioning pipe is quite strong. Right, I'll try and reach in and get that by hand. Where's the nut? There's the nut now. I need to get that magnetic-y thing, one sec. It's incredibly difficult to do this flipping air conditioning line anyway. There's the nut.
I have a feeling the nut just fell down.
Yeah. But, okay. I will find it somewhere. There it is.
Oh, is it? Oh, I think I see it.
Down here, look.
It's like orangey.
It is.
Oh no, there. Let's look like that. And there's a red thing.
Lovely. Right. So we now have the main power cable off of the actual alternator itself. We have that top bolt loose. I'm just going to carry on looking at that almost off. So under here, these are the two bolts we're going to have to get off. I can't really even show you very well. Where are we? It's these two here. Hang on. Focus. So those two there, one there and one there. Both the same bolts, 13mm, and they're reasonably good on a universal joint. You should be able to get them quite easily. So I'm going to quickly whip them off and see if we can get the alternator out the top. Okay, so I've managed to get the alternator completely free now. So it's obviously belt off, both of the bottom bolts out, the top bolt out, the main power connector off of it, the little nut, and the rear clip also has come off. It wasn't as bad as people talk about. I mean, obviously mine might be different to a lot of other people's, but as long as you press the clip quite hard, when you press the clip in, you get like a click. If you press it just that bit hard, you get like a fuller click, at which point you can wiggle it. That's when it's actually disconnected. So it wasn't too bad to get that off. Now I've got to try and get this alternator out of this little hole. Most people disconnect this hose set up here, but I haven't got anything to catch any of the coolant in at the moment, which is a bit of a pain. There shouldn't be a huge amount at that point, depending on where we are. There's so many bloody hoses, it's ridiculous. But if I were to take out, if I were to undo the top hose here, maybe. Let's see, let me try and, oops, don't do that. I need to hook that up.
What's in that hose?
There's still a bit of coolant in this hose, about this level, you see. So it goes up below this level, it will start coming out because the hose plug isn't quite strong enough.
Is that what's leaked on there?
So I'm going, huh?
That was leaked on
That's just coolant, yeah. Words can't express, but either way, the alternator's out. So I watched a few other videos. I'll put some links in the description of the videos I watched, but things I had to do is to disconnect this top hose. There's very little leakage once you've taken the header tank out, and just basically pull it up and over the top. You unpop these out the way as well. And then that gets out of the way. You don't need to remove this top rad hose. I couldn't actually get it off, and as it happens, I didn't need to take it off anyway. Second thing was, there's a little clip just down there which holds the AC line on. Pop that out. It's a bit of a faff actually. Just pop the plastic thing without breaking it, and then the hose kind of lifts off the thing and pushes down out the way. As you can see, it's sitting slightly lower. This hose is sitting slightly lower. Then it's actually not as difficult. So it's that fresh mind kind of thing. When I tried to get it out, it came out first attempt. So there's a bit of coolant loss, but really not a lot at all. As soon as you've got the header tank out and you've taken some out, there really isn't a lot to go away. So I have got a drip tray underneath, but it really hasn't taken much at all. So that is out. So as it happens, the annoying thing is, doesn't sound too bad. And it was intermittently working. So the bearing's not gone, but it's certainly not any of the other idlers. So hopefully I'll get the new alternator in, and then fingers crossed it should be sans squeaky noise. So I'm going to call this video there. I think it's enough of me swearing and hurting myself. So I'll split this up into a couple of videos. So this is getting the alternator out. The next video, I'm probably going to take a video up at Starter Bay if it's okay with Sam, so we can find out a bit more about what he actually does. And then we'll do one installing the new alternator and getting it all set up. But for the time being, really appreciate your patience with this, because this has taken me several attempts to get this done. I'm sure there's an easier way of doing it. I'm not a trained mechanic. I am a YouTube mechanic, which means not a mechanic. So I've kind of done my best with this without spending a fortune getting somebody else to do it for me. Also kind of like the challenge, despite the fact that my hands hurt like hell at the moment. Got it out and I'm happy with that. So thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. Please do subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Share it with all your L322 Range Rover friends or people that like to watch people try and be mechanics. Leave a comment, like the video and all that kind of good stuff. Been very much appreciated. And I'll see you again next time. Thanks very much.